Our next guest has had to spend a good part of his life explaining to people that actually there are no mountains at Mountain Home Air Force Base. But he's gotten through that, and now he can talk about a great many more serious issues. His name is Lieutenant Colonel Steve Heil. He is, if this were television, there'd be a caption graphic, and then at the end of his name, it would read AFRET period for Air Force retired. He's retired from the Air Force, and I should say that there are times when he looks not only at his country, but also at his beloved Air Force and the military and wonders, what the heck are we doing wrong? It's 73, 7 minutes after 9 o'clock. Bill Colley with you as well on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. And first of all, Colonel, welcome back to the program.
It's always a pleasure.
I was going to say, when I referenced Mountain Home, we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. You have visited there, though, right? Probably
Yes.
as a member of the team when you were still with the Thunderbirds.
Yeah, it was one of the stops along the show route, and all those mountains in the background made quite a backdrop, you know.
But the base itself
the
is
non-existent mountains.
yes, the base is on a plateau, right?
Yeah, it is. It's very flat.
Well, hey, I wanted to have you join us today on a few subjects. First one, you had a chance, I'm sure, to listen to the president's remarks yesterday, and he was speaking about this thing called, well, he calls it ISIL. His reference to ISIL may have more to do with his upbringing, which ISIL means the Islamic State in the Levant, which means a much wider area, which if you don't like Israel, it might be a reference to all of that. The rest of us call it ISIS. But just take a listen to this for a moment. This is the President of the United States, flanked by some of his military leaders yesterday.
As I've said before, and I know our military leaders agree, this broader challenge of countering violent extremism is not simply a military effort. Ideologies are not defeated with guns. They're defeated by better ideas.
So when you were in the U.S. military, there was obviously not much emphasis on training and weaponry, but I guess it was all on debate, right? I mean, and better ideas.
Well, let me just say this to our so-called commander-in-chief. I would think anybody in their right mind would not believe that we could have won the war with better ideas over the ideology of Nazism.
Yeah, I saw a post today from Eric Erickson where he said, yeah, FDR did a really good job of debating Hitler.
Yes, he overwhelmed him with ideal firepower, and that's one of the most ludicrous statements I think any military person and someone who's supposed to have the military's back could ever make. It's just another demonstration of how little understanding this pretender to the leadership of our military is divorced from anything that has to do with our national defense.
When I was listening to all of this, there's a distinct impression that I'm getting that he doesn't believe that our forces can defeat ISIS in a war. Now, I'm not saying we need to go to war with them right now, but they are saying they're going to threaten us somehow, one way or another, American interest, whether it be overseas or here. So that the day may come where we have our own generation's Pearl Harbor. But when I can't believe that he would say that. First of all, I think that in a matter of days, the Marine Corps would likely have these people driven into the sea.
Well, yeah, and the military could defeat ISIS within less than a month if the civilian and pansy leadership of our military, and particularly our commander-in-chief, would just say, go do your job, and we're going to leave you alone, and report back when the job is done. And it'd be over within a month.
Our guest is Lieutenant Colonel Steve Heil. He's retired from the U.S. Air Force, spending a few minutes with us, offering some reflections on some recent events that are taking place at the White House and around the world. Yesterday, the Washington Post, which is usually buttering up the president, had an editorial saying he has not had any serious response to the Chinese espionage, where they seized the records of government workers by the tens of millions. They're viewing it at the Post of all places as an act of war. On Saturday, Independence Day, Russian planes were buzzing the California coast while he was in a pleasant phone conversation with Vladimir Putin at the very same time. Does the man? Do you think that he just is? Are they testing him? I mean, and are they getting the results they want? That he's not going to stand up to them?
Oh, absolutely. It's all about testing him, and I really think that it's Vladimir Putin just really enjoying himself by poking a sharp stick at this wimp, and he's laughing. It's that, but it's more beyond that. It's more dangerous because every time there isn't a response, it just solidifies in Putin and all our enemies' eyes that come and do whatever you want. We're not going to respond with any kind of meaningful force.
I remember hearing from my reading when we were in school as a kid that one of the reasons that Khrushchev put the missiles in Cuba, in fact, that crisis was taking place at the time I was born. So I kind of, there's an old line from, I think it was Mark Twain. I came in with Halley's Comet, and I'll go out with Halley's Comet. Well, I came in with on the precipice of a nuclear war. Hope I don't go out that way. But I recall reading that Khrushchev thought Kennedy weak because he called off the Bay of Pigs air support. So it's very similar here. These probings going on by the Chinese or by the Russians obviously are to find out just how far they can go, and maybe they feel they can go all the way.
Well, I would certainly get that distinct impression if I were any of our enemies, given how weakened our military is, our fighting spirit. We've become an Air Force. All the services have become a grand social engineering experiment. It's been dumbed down. I quite frankly don't know why anybody in their right mind would ever want to join the military, given the environment that they're going into. It's preposterous.
Saw a story yesterday, and I think that I shared it with you as well. There's an Air Force base in Arizona where somebody spotted on base a flag flying, and it looks sort of like the American flag. You've got the blue field with the stars, but the 13 stripes are the rainbow colors, which there is a uniform flag code. There is a complaint filed, but apparently so far the Air Force is dragging its feet. Can you imagine someone flying that flag on a base when you were still in uniform?
That flag would have been ripped down, and the person flying it would not enjoy being a citizen of that Air Force Base community any longer.
I guess the Air Force itself, and you told me a couple of years ago that they were having the best mustache contest. These people, of course, are supposed to be defending the United States, but it does seem that it's more a social club any longer than it is a branch of the U.S. military.
Well, that's exactly right. When you've got the four-star general who has nothing better to do than referee or umpire or judge a best mustache in the Air Force contest, what does that tell you? And it's our military has become, so there's as much, if not more, emphasis now on going out in the community, volunteering on your time off, and being a good citizen, which is fine. I have no problem with volunteerism, but when it starts to become almost a directive rather than something you would do on your own. I'm sorry about the phone ringing in the background.
Well, some people have a dog usually barking in the background, but
well, I don't have a dog, but I could go find one. But anyway, it just shows the mentality of the leadership now that happens. The other thing that we see happening is that things that used to be, particularly if you were a young airman or a young soldier or whatever, you might have made a mistake along the way. You may have gotten to a little tiff in a bar. You may have done something that's really not a real crime, and that would have been not overlooked, but you would have been punished for it. But now you're done. So if you're not so really what's happening is people are expected to have an absolute unblemished, risk-free, take no risks career to get to the top, and those are not the kind of people that we need to rise as leaders. So
they're politicians, really. When you come down to it.
It forces everybody into that mood, and it's disastrous. The impact is going to be disastrous. It's already being disastrous. So.
Our guest is Lieutenant Colonel Steve Heil. He is retired from the United States Air Force. It's coming up on 9/18/74. You're listening to Top Story with Bill Colley on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. We've got about a minute to go. I think that you could probably think, well, you could look at this and say we could turn it around. We just need somebody who's got the stones to do it. And apparently at the moment, you don't see anybody like that.
I see nobody like that on the horizon. If there were, they would have already done something to start that reversal, even maybe at the peril, and I'm talking at the senior leadership, military leadership level, to watch what's happening. They would not have been able to stand it. I mean, to their own peril, they would have done something about it, and it hasn't happened, and it won't happen because everybody that's now coming up through those ranks becomes less and less prone to be the kind of person we really want and need when we go to war.
I want to thank you for your time, Colonel, today, and we'll talk again, I would imagine, soon. And
I hope so.
Wish you and the family best, and you didn't have any barking dogs. I didn't even hear the cats meowing.
Well, they're both out luxuriating in the warm weather here.
Yeah, you have that thing called humidity where you live.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Well, hey, have a great week, and thank you again.
And give my regards to Tucker.
Oh, will do. Thank you. Thank you. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Heil joining us this morning for a few minutes, offering some thoughts on the direction the U.S. military is going, as well as the president, the leadership that it has. I have more details on Mr. Obama's speech coming up.